they got serious into special needs education was through the different commissions that they created. So we had the Ominde Commission, we had the Gachagua Commission, and they all advocated for care for children with special needs and disabilities. It is not until 2013 when the sector policy actually spoke about inclusive education. All this time they have been talking about special education, focusing on specialized schools and disabilities. Now, 2013, the sector policy came up, and that's when now we got the terminology of inclusive education. So we are cognizant of the fact that there is a need for services for children with special needs in our country. However, it is the implementation of such policies that actually leave us at a place where we are not sure what to do. The question is, why not? Yes? Why are we not being able to include these children? So we look at a situation where currently in our country today, we don't have resources. Yes? We don't have resources for the children. We don't have resources. When you look at, when we actually look at the number of children that are enrolled in school, let me go, before I go to the number of children, the UNESCO and there's UNESCO and the World Health Organization have told us that, have cited that 15% of each and every population has a disability, correct? You're the one in school, you know this, yeah? So 15% of any population has a disability. Who knows the number of, what's the population of Kenya? It's about 54, right? Can we calculate and see? 54 minus 15% is what? It's about how many million? It's about 6.6 or something. Or let's say even 5 million, right? So the census that was carried out in 2009 indicated that in this country we have 1.4 million people with disabilities. That is 3.5%. And we are told 15%. So what happened to the other percentage that are not covered within the 15%? Where are they? 2015, is it 2015, the census? To 2019, the census indicated that we have below 1 million. So what happened to the persons with disabilities who are already there? And what happened to our population, the 15%, that determines that our children have disabilities, or they are persons with disabilities? So when we look at numbers, and that's where I'm going about services, when we look at numbers, we don't have the data to talk about children with special needs in our country. We don't have data to support us when we go and ask for resources for our children. Now, we are told that 77 million children are not enrolled in school. And a third of those 70, globally, a third of that 77 children have disability. So our question is, for those who are there and those who we have already found, what are we doing for them? So the desire is there. You asked whether the desire is there. The desire is there, but the facts on the ground and the figures show us otherwise. Our policies are there, but we are not implementing the policies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've come from the point of data, and I've been privileged. I'm a student of statistics. And I saw the experience of how the 2019 census worked out for us. And the numbers control everything. That is what I got to unravel from my statistics class. And this is what even controls the resource provision that the persons with disability very need. Looking into what all the other factors that control the provision of issues in inclusive education financing stands out. Yes. Another thing is the resource provision stands out. Manpower facilitation stands out. How do we get to come together as a fraternity and as a team to make sure that this works, especially from a point of we bring the government and the non-government stakeholders to bridge this gap? Because you find that even recently, the government, through this from the State House, they brought in a new funding model for funding higher education. And for us to track proper implementation of inclusive education, we must track it from the basic educational structures to the higher educational structures. But when we have distorted or rather unbalanced funding metrics to support the education of learners with disabilities, then are we doing like justice to that policy, or are we just like bringing in interventions that like are supposed to fill the boxes? For you, yeah.
I think you've mentioned the areas where we're having challenges in, the resources, the teacher empowerment, the knowledge. Are we just filling in the box? We are at a place where we're actually filling in the box because we are not being able to meet the needs of these children. We are not resourced to meet the needs of these children. Yes, so I do believe, and I think I can request my fellow panelists from their perspectives. We are actually just ticking the boxes to say, yes, we have this number of children. Because I can tell you for a fact that the Education Task Force in 2012, in 1999, we had 22,000 children who had been registered going to school, children with special needs, right? 2003, we had 26,000. 2008, we had 45,000. So the number is rising, yeah? But where are they going? Are they going as being physically present? Are their needs being met? Are we able to afford? Special education is very, very expensive. Are we able to afford to have children with special needs in class, in school, and meet their needs? Yeah? They will be there physically. But whether they're accessing education as they're supposed to access education, that's a big question mark. Yeah.
Mr. Reuben Wambugu, I'm on your neck. We must, harness discipline inclusion within the education arena very well, and so that's why I must be on you. The education modules that we have in the country and beyond, starting from 844 syllabus, we have the CBC on board, the international teacher-pupil engagements. They form the fundamental aspects of realizing quality education globally. The desire of every stakeholder is the success of the child, starting with the parent who brings the child to school. And so, from where you sit, a process which requires this is a process that requires the input of parents, it requires the input of teachers and even the policy formulators. As an MD in an educational institution that is operating globally, per se, share with us within this forum the best practices which schools prioritize to get the best of each child academically and other extracurricular activities. You can blend these with the training that you have within Bridge and the experience that you have within the strategies that you put in place. Kindly.
Thank you so much for that question. So, going by the nature of the question, I'm looking at education here from the larger topical area of inclusivity and as well as equity. And this is guided by the SDG 4 that looks at how can we make sure that each and every other learner is getting to be supported by a teacher who is making sure that the learner gets to be supported to maximize on their potential. And I'll start my presentation based on a recent World Bank report, which has highlighted that 90% of the low-income countries, children who are at the age of 10, cannot be in a position to read a simple text. They cannot read a simple text with comprehension. And that problem is not just like a sub-Saharan problem. If you look at the low-income and as well as the middle-income countries, the statistic is still huge. It goes to 70%. It begs the question, the education systems that we have in place across the globe, are they really impacting on learning directly? And the question, therefore, would get an answer that speaks to, no, we are not meeting the learning needs of each learner. What do we need to do, and what are other countries doing to continue to embrace that? And one of the key things here is, I always tell a story. When I was in primary school, that's the only time that I got to be introduced into the practice of teaching. When I was in class 7, I used to teach maths in the primary school that I was running as a pupil. And why was that the case? Because the maths teacher, whenever they are not present, I was very good in maths. And when the maths teacher is not present, he used to ask Reuben, can you just go and revise with the other learners? But I'm not a trained teacher. I don't know the concept of how to manage a classroom. I don't know the concept of how to create a conducive environment for learning. The assumption from the teacher is, just because you have the knowledge, you should be in a position to transmit that knowledge to the other learners. Are we missing that concept to date? And it leads to the question, how are we supporting teachers? And as an organization, Bridge International Academies, one of the key areas that we continue to work on, and we've seen that across multiple countries that we are supporting. We've seen that in countries like Nigeria, where we are partnering with the government. We are seeing that in countries like Rwanda, where we are partnering with the government, is to make sure that we have a strong model for teacher capacity building. Not the initial training for the teacher, but how do you make sure that there is continuous performance development for the teacher when they are in class? How do you make sure that you've come up with clear metrics and rubrics that can help you to be in a position to understand that a given teacher would require a support in a given area of their work? And after you are able to do that, then you are also able to look for the outcomes that you'll be measuring. The outcome is the learner. How is the learner performing? Are you building a holistic child, not just academically? Are you supporting the learner to be good in reading, writing, numeracy, and also the socio-emotional skills that are very important for the learner when they transition to the next world of the working life? Number 2, now that you have supported the teacher, think about the education systems that you would want to put in place that helps you to gather as much data that would inform the evidence-based decisions that you'll be making. And many countries across the globe have continued to adopt technology as one of the ways of building that transparency and accountability. And we do have a learning platform whereby, right from the micro level of a classroom, there is an education system for the classroom that helps us to gather as much data that the teacher will be in a position to feed in as they are continuing to teach. There's also the school level operating system, and also there is the network level operating system. The moment you are able to infuse that into the teaching, then you are able to see at what level of management and at what level of learning would you want to do more to be in a position to support teaching and for you to be in a position to make sure that every learner is learning as expected. In addition to that, systems, technologies don't work without people. You really need to support everyone in the ecosystem. You really need to make sure that people are making use of that data, and when they are making decisions, the decisions then get to trickle down to the users. And the user is the very person who is helping you to generate the data. So that's the way then you come up with a support framework for the teachers through their mentors, through their coaches. And these will be field-based experts who are moving around the various schools and making use of the data reports to hold individualized conversations with those teachers, with the school leaders, and also ensuring that everyone is being brought on board in the day-to-day management. So that helps in feeding the whole ecosystem with an evidence-based approach of managing schools and making sure that every decision that we are making is centered on the data. And that has helped us as an institution, that has helped many countries that we continue to work on, and evidence across the globe has continued to demonstrate that evidence-based decision-making is helping schools transform and is impacting on learning. Just 2 years, barely 2 years ago, there is a study that was conducted by the 2019 Nobel Prize winner, Professor Michael Kramer. And he was here in the country in the year 2016, 2017, where he conducted a research across multiple public schools, private schools, and as well as with Bridge International being part of the private schools that then was subjected through this study. And after 2 years of a random control trial, what Professor Michael Kramer got to release in his report is his appreciation that the Bridge International schools demonstrated that they were able to produce one of the highest ever achieved learning gains compared to other studies that have been conducted in the developing world. And the reason for that is he said there is no single solution. It's about the integrated learning solution. So supporting a teacher without thinking about the support framework for the other faculties and the government would not succeed. Thinking about technology in classroom without supporting the teacher will not succeed. So we need an integrated, holistic solution that looks at each and every other part of the life cycle for us to continue supporting our learners and for us to be certain that learning is taking place.
Thank you so much for that deep elaboration. And I would like to ask, from a point of now, you've talked about much of the classwork or the whatever controls the class operations. And we need to diverge into what about the extracurricular involvement? What are the investments that you've put within the Bridge International School that gets to work in terms of enabling development, whole development of a student, especially from a point of a student disability, who is talented outside the classroom? Because these people, as Madam Eva had elaborated, it's investment in their development is there's need for huge investment in their development, and I know this also gets into you as those within the private educational sector that is privately funded, and so it takes a toll on you, yes. But what measures have we put in place to enable that whole development of a child with disability, especially from by tapping into their talents, let's say, for example, sporting talent, music or art talent, so that at least when this student gets out of the institution, it's not about fully doing the classwork, but rather getting to identify his or her gifting that is outside the classroom. What is it that has worked within within Bridge International, the strategy that you fully involved in, that it gets to support the development of these learners from this perspective, the extracurricular perspective?
Thank you so much for that question. So when you think about building a child holistically, we acknowledge and we continue to echo that you cannot build a child holistically only through academics. You need to make sure that you're building on their capabilities. And one of the programs that we've put in place is an extracurricular program. In itself, with a dedicated teacher and dedicated guides that then help the teacher to even best understand on how they can continue improving on every child ability. And what we do is, as part of our supplementary lessons that usually happen in the afternoon, in the morning hours, you know, normal curriculum lesson, then in the afternoon hours, during the extracurricular activity, we have even broadened our focus on extracurricular, not just to think about co-curricular from the aspect of outdoor activity, no. But thinking about co-curricular and extracurricular also from the aspect of building a strong mind for this given learner. And we have done a lot of research to be in a position to demystify what are some of the programs that would build a strong socio-emotional ability in a learner, whether it's a learner with mild disability or whether it's just a normal learner. Thinking about what are some of the programs that then can support the physical abilities of a given learner. And these are the ones that people will speak to every time we're talking about co-curricular like the athletics, the ball games, and many others. But beyond just those outdoors, we have defined programs that are already structured within the lesson plans, that are already structured within the timetabling, that helps us to be in a position to build a very holistic child, one who is strong physically, one who is able to be in a position to maximize on their abilities, and one also who is in a position to be strong in terms of their socio-emotional skills.
Thank you so much. And on to Madam Pauline Elizabeth. You're the founding director of Mali Therapy Center for Children with Autism. And from where you sit, I hope you attest to this, that inclusive education, in its whole concept, is to help bring the global parameters or the global advantage of like enabling access to education work for every individual. And from where you sit, these should help like all children, the youth, and youth, even adults, and every other person who has any kind of disability, be it physical, visual, mental, autism, cerebral palsy, and all of that type of disability that I haven't mentioned, so that they get to acquire education in a manner that at least takes care of their diverse interest and issues. And so from where you sit, these should help to enable equity in enabling them access and get to acquire education that is holistic and enables their development. And from your point, from where you sit, do you believe in the efforts put so far by stakeholders in ensuring equal opportunity to all learners? Do you believe it gets to work?
Thank you for that question. And I believe in the efforts that are being put out there to support the learner with learning disabilities or learner with disability, with any kind of disability like you've mentioned. But before I go forward with my points, I would like to ask everyone in the room, how many of you know of a relative, a friend with a child or with even a youth, with a disability, and how many of them have had access to education? How many of them have gone to school? Have they gone to school? Okay. So that is to say that there's some effort that is being made out there. But is it enough is the question. Yes? So when you're talking about inclusive education, and if the government is doing enough, or if the institutions that are challenged with that job are doing enough, I do not think they're doing enough. And I feel it is because of lack of goodwill. So lack of goodwill, where you have, like Madam Eva said, we have policies, and we have resources. We do not have enough resources, but the little that we have, where is it allocated? You see, when we talk about access, how many, we have we are still, for example, I'll give an example, the National Council, Persons with Disabilities. It has data for persons with disabilities in Nairobi, but what about the other counties? How many children on the spectrum with physical disabilities are catered for? So you cannot plan for who you don't know exists. And that is why numbers don't lie. So that is access. I can tell you that if we are saying 15% of our population is of people with disabilities, I can tell you in that 15%, maybe only 1% is accessing education. And the reason why I've asked the room is because we are in Nairobi. Go somewhere in Kakamega, Kisumu, Eldoret, and ask the same question. I can tell you for free that you will have 1 or 2 hands raised. The biggest challenge also is having a special child is not cheap. And our institutions that make policies have also not made it easy for these parents to access the services that they need. So for example, Mali Therapy Center has come up with a support group for parents with children with disabilities. And as of today morning, our membership was at 715. I can tell you less than 100 of those parents have their children in schools. Why? Because yes, we have schools, but are the schools equipped to handle our children? No, they are not equipped. And when I say we are talking about access, but I'll also go to quality education. What is quality education to you? Quality education to you could be your child getting A's. Quality education to me is my child able to write their name? Are they able to communicate their needs? Okay? Are they able to even read a storybook? That is enough for me. So that quality education is what they are not getting in schools, because we are not, as much as we are pushing this inclusive agenda, we are not inclusive. We do not have an inclusive learning platform for our children. For inclusion, for me, means that as the other children are being taught at maybe to read, and they're able to get it in one day, is there an extra teacher who's able to teach my slow learner how to read in 3 days? Do we have that capacity? Is the school open to us bringing in extra support? And this is the discussion that we are taking to the schools and the school owners here, that open your doors for us. Let us support you. We have people who have the knowledge, but they do not have the resources. Open your doors to them. Let them support you, and let us embrace this idea of inclusive education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so deep. And now to Miss Esther Nyagah. You are a teacher at the Nairobi Waldorf School Trust. I carry on with the assertion that teachers have great impact on the development of the children or the learners. These even taking care of the learners with disabilities. And the teachers themselves are supposed to build confidence in these children, irrespective of their impairment. And these should take into care the issues about the universal design principles. As a teacher, what is your experience interacting with these learners in your work environment? What's your recommendation that you can share to this panel? And how can we get to work to improve inclusivity in the learning environment from your own perspective as a practitioner in this field? Take it up.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Or good evening, is it good evening? Good afternoon. I'll start with, I would want you to listen to this. Our rightful place as educators is to be removers of hindrances. Each child in every age brings something new into the world from divine regions. And it is our task as educators to remove bodily and soul obstacles out of the child's way, to remove hindrances so that the spirit may enter in full freedom into life. The children that we are receiving are spiritual beings, just the same way you are. You started from somewhere. We came not knowing anything. We came as clean slates into this world. We each learned different capacities from our own environment. When we sit here, you can imagine I coming from Limuru, probably you've come from Nyanza, probably from Nyeri, but you're here. So I bring my gifts here as you bring yours. Now, as a teacher, in the 20-something years that I've had these children, one of the things I've believed is that a child cannot come to me if they've not chosen me in their spiritual realm. And so what I know is that my capacity or my presence is not a career. You know, teaching is not a career. It is a calling. So I always tell teachers, if you are looking for a job, teaching is not a job. Go to a bank. Because my life is a lifelong learning where I will forever I'll keep on learning and love to learn. And the people who are going to teach me are the children. Now, with inclusivity, what does that mean when we say inclusivity? We just mean bringing everybody together irrespective of what and who they are. And children do not know whether I am capable or not. We are the ones who make them aware. Have you ever imagined living like a child? No worries, no issues. Just thinking of what I will eat, what game I will play, how, not even sleep, because that is not an issue. Then I come here and I bring a timetable. Schedule is very important, rhythm very important. But how flexible am I to accept what is in front of me? I've been trained in the Kenyan system, and I've also trained in the Waldorf system. Waldorf is not a new system. It has been there for 101 years. We celebrated 100 years last year in the world. In Kenya, it has been there for 40 years. And CBC, the one that we are always now preaching, actually borrowed from us. So we are the ones who are the initiators of CBC. We work with children from their point of need, not from the syllabus. The syllabus is there. It will forever be there. Even it's going to be renewed again and again. It's going to be revamped. Policies are going to be there, but are they to serve the child or for me? So with Waldorf, basically, our work is to bring everyone on board. My work is to assess and see that this child actually needs this particular approach from my curriculum. And from what Pauline is saying about looking at the well-being of this child and saying that, this one is very good in mathematics or arithmetics, isn't it? And the way I teach arithmetic, it has nothing to do with sitting and cramming. It has everything to do with storytelling. Even right now, how I've started is with a little to capture you. If I had not started like that, you might think I'm so serious, isn't it? But has it captured your emotion? Would you like me to say it again so that you remember it? Because I'll still say it again. So that you remember why you are here. Why did this child choose me? For me to deliver the curriculum? No. It's because I have something that was gifted to me by the Supreme Being that I'm able to deliver. So going to my curriculum, going for my training, going for whatever has no business when it comes to children. And I remember one of the panelists before asked, do we teach children? I think it was, you said, am I here to just give, or am I also here to receive? So I, as a teacher, believe that for me to deliver, I have to listen first. So when I'm talking about a child's gift and inclusion, like for example, my class, I have an ADHD, I have an autistic boy, and I have an anthropolasia, the small, lovely little people who has a lot of capabilities. But the autistic boy, he's my mathematician. He's the one who helps me create a plan for the year. Why? He's gifted in that area. So what do? I build it up. I make him be in charge of the calendar for my year. And he will guide me. So am I the one who's bringing that idea? No. My ADHD boy, who's all over, yet listens to you when you ask a question. He's the first one to respond. Where else they have a very quiet one, very calm. I should be worried about that one. Yet we say they are normal, isn't it? The one who doesn't make noise, yeah? They're the ones whom we should be actually very careful about, because I might lose them. So we focus mostly on children who are well-abled. We tend to push away the others. Our school does not have a special needs department. We have a learning support department. Because everyone, even for me, I'm still in learning support. When I was born with dyslexia. I couldn't read. I used to see words flying. But the teacher that I had, I'll never forget. Actually, I was telling one of the people I'm sitting around the table with, about my father. My father never at one time asked me, what points did you get? He would ask me, how was your day? Did anybody offend you? What was so good about that lesson? You're talking about teacher so-and-so. So what was so good about her or him? No given time at the end of the term would he ask for my report card. I thought that was funny because other children were afraid to go home, whereas I was ready to go home. And I would actually give it to him without him asking. Then this person, this teacher, Miss Oele, walked with me all the days. Never at any given time did he say, you're keeping me here. Esther, why are you not getting it? And that's why I chose this career, to help those children who are struggling. Right now I can write and read and read and read and not get tired. I love it. And that is why we need children to be brought in together with the rest of the children, not separate them. Don't exclude them. In every school, we must have that opportunity that in every 30 children, we have 5 amongst them. We must empower the teachers to know how to even create an IEP, individualized educational plan. You see, I went through a portal in the education where there even the syllabus is there, it has been given out. Even it has gone ahead to write a lesson plan for the teachers. So what is this teacher doing? What will this teacher be planning for? You know, after I leave my classroom, first I have to do something called a rickshaw. Have you ever heard of a rickshaw? Where you think backwards of the events of the day. So that when I'm going backwards, I as a teacher am able to identify where I went wrong. Not what the child did something wrong. It means there's somewhere I went wrong for this child to act or react the way they did. So that one will help me plan for my second lesson. And when I plan, I have to have room where I create an IEP for these 3 boys, or 5 boys, or 5 girls, or whichever. Meaning, my lesson must include them in my delivery. Then at the end of the day, if I'm having, and we are given actually support. We have extra support teachers who their work is to help me guide them individually. Then we sit and discuss on what to do next. It's a whole experience where I'd really love teachers to go through. And it's passionate. It has nothing to do with me just being employed. It has everything for me to see that this being has chosen me. It is the most fearful experience ever, that they've chosen me. I should always wake up fearful. And that's why we always say, you receive the child in reverence every morning. Reverence. What is reverence? You revere. It's the way you revere God. So these children, you must revere them. They wake up every morning to meet me. It's crazy, isn't it? They never tire. So why should I tire? Then you're told, educate them in love. Don't educate them to pass. Educate them with love. When you are done, and you are sure you are done and you are honest enough that you are done, send them forth in freedom in the evening. And by leave you me the following day with the inclusivity that has been there, this child would want to come again and again with the little milestones, whether they know how to read in 3 days, in 1 week, even in a month. They will always want to wake up in the morning to meet you. Why? Because you've met their need for that one day. And that milestone will never regress. You see, I tell people, a child development is only from 0 to 7. We know that, eh? If you tamper with a child's development from 0 to 7, you've actually disorganized their 21 and above. 0 to 7 is the mirror to 21 and above. And I see my father nodding. because he has gone through that. Anything to do with a 7 to 18 or 19 has no business. Actually, they are cruising through life. 0 to 7 is the determining factor. That is the mirror to your adulthood. When I ask you to look back what you did in your 0 to 7, and then now look at yourself now, and the struggles that you've gone through, either through emotion, instability, making clear judgments, or in career. That's why we have many students who have issues with making a decision of what they want to undertake, or even the love of their lives. Relationships. We work through that in their early years. And you know, the people who are most gifted in those areas are the special needs children. They are the ones who never miss a step. We work, actually, I mirror myself through them, because I know if they react in a certain way, it means I did not meet their need. I have to relook at myself again. One day I woke up and I had an accident along the road. I was going to work. I didn't share with anybody, but I think I had an aura of anger and all that. I walked through the door, and you are told, teachers, you must leave your coat wear at the gate. I didn't. I found myself in class. Then this boy called Denver, I know you've met Denver. Denver came straight to me and said, Teacher Esther, I love you. Go out. I said, what? Why? He said, you are not okay. And he started crying. He's autistic. And I said, Denver, you don't have to cry. He said, you're not okay. Go take a walk. I said, okay. I left the classroom. And he took over the rhythmic session. In the 2-hour lesson, we have 40 minutes of movement, purposeful movement, multiplication tables movement. Do you want to see how it is done? You want to see? Get up. So we are going to do the 2 times table, the simplest. Okay? Can you hear me? My voice is so loud. I shout. Let me tell you. I'm a teacher. So we're going to do the 2 times table. So how does it go? 2? No? The first is the, we do the answer. Then what brings you to that answer? Never go just straight and do the. So what starts? 2, 2, and then? I like the way you're thinking. Isn't it? But now with children, you don't do that. You go straight. Now we are going to use our feet, and it's apart, and then the first one number silent, the second one loud. So please watch me first. Are we clear? Don't do anything. Watch me. Dear children. Okay? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. You get the vibe? Yeah. Let's do it. All right. So that we wake up. 3, 2, 1, and go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Something like that, yeah? The 3 times table goes like this. 3, 6, 9, 12. So it's Caesar, Caesar, together. Let's do it, and then we can sit. Up to 12. 12. It's movement, isn't it, after lunch? Reach one and go. 3, 6, 9, 12. Clap for yourself. So when I do these kinds of movement, every morning, and When I do these kinds of movement, together with speech exercises, together with body movement, I as a teacher will breathe, the child will breathe, the mind will be awake. When I'm bringing now the new content, the child who has ADHD has settled. The child who is not able to speak has spoken. The child who's not able to move has moved. Now that is inclusivity. And every teacher must have that opportunity to create such a lesson where everyone has been included, even yourself as a teacher. You can hear the way I'm breathing. It's nice, isn't it? And that is an everyday lesson. It's not a Monday and then you skip a Tuesday. If you keep that rhythm, a boy like Denver will always want to lead the movement lesson. Tendai, who's my ADHD boy, will be able to move with a lot of energy and will never forget to store it in his mind. Meaning math is beautiful. When I'm teaching and I'm bringing a story about the 4 processes in mathematics, I'll teach through story and I will tell them about a person who loves to, is like a businessman. What do businessmen do? They count. How do they count? Haraka ama? Pole pole. A businessman takes time to count their shilling. That is Peter plus. Addition sign. We have a person who likes to lose things, not likes. He's a feeling person. Every time you give him a 10, he'll find himself having 5. Where did the rest of the 5 go? Oh, my pocket is, I think it's torn. I don't know where. Who is that? Yes. We don't even say take away. You know when you teach a child and you say take away, it's a wrong approach. I can never take away anything from you. You can only but give it away. Never take away. Taking away, you are actually, it's like, yeah, that's corruption. Isn't it? You're taking away my rights, my money. But if I am giving it, if I'm losing it, it's a different thing. I have a very just person who's very serious with what he or she does. Every time this person makes a decision, must be clear and assertive. And this is a person known as David Divide or Daniela Divide. They are very just. If you get a 2, he must get a 2. If there's anything more than that, I remain with it until I add more through Peter Plus. Then I can as well give it away. I have one who's the happiest of them all. You send them to the market, wherever they'll go doing cartwheels. Always happy, always like dabbling. He's nearly closer to a businessman, but yet he's not. But he helps the businessman gain more. Who is that? Tommy Times or Tabitha Times, whatever you call that person. But that is a person who helps. If I'm introducing every concept with that story and a picture, and that's why a Waldorf teacher must know how to draw. Beautiful artistic work. Before the child enters my classroom on Monday morning, I'm on Sunday doing my blackboard in the evening. So I'm always in my classroom every Sunday evening doing my blackboard. So that when my children come on Monday, they find a beautiful new drawing and they wonder, what is Teacher Esther going to say next? So what time do they come to school? Let me tell you, by 7:30, 7 they're in school. So I'm there waiting so that they ask me. And not only, they're children who think We think they are normal. No one is normal. We are all in the process of becoming. And that's why we do not separate these little beings and segregate them and say, you're special, this one is not. That's why we do it. Thank you.
Oh my. Thank you so much. Finalizing all this, there's one aspect that is very crucial, and Mr. Wambugu tried bringing it out, the socio-emotional investment in our institutions. I carry with me the pain of a young child who got his disability while growing up, especially while in primary school. You closed school at the end of the term or at the end of the year. Coming the following year, you have disability that you never had. That is while getting now to the upper primary, standard 4. The challenge that comes with such an occurrence is that you get into the normal system that you were in before, but it's you who have had the change. There's a different you now, and there's a challenge that those whom you are within that system will, how they'll change, how they term you, how they call you, and how they refer to you, and how you'll be handled in a bigger perspective. These within the teachers, these with administration, and even your fellow students whom are supposed to support you from one point to the other. Then the challenge is that these practitioners are still the same. They haven't gotten the perspective onto how to handle the diversity that you tag along with, especially from the disability status. The investment that is very crucial for us, and this emanates even from the training that these practitioners need to have on how to handle the psychological support system within our educational system. Because for me, I got a disability, back to school where I used to study. These people have gotten to the normal, undergone the normal training that most of them don't know how to handle learners with disability. And so whenever you develop a character that is unfound of, you treat it like a queer character, you caned like the normal students, so that they bring out the normality aspect of handling each learner, but not knowing that you need some special help or special intervention. Within your confines or within your areas of operation, what are the kind of recommendations that you can bring on board in terms of enabling psychosocial interventions and socio-emotional intervention to support these? Because you find that from my own experience, most of these learner disabilities get to, yes, they want to grow as like other children. So their parents also, because most of them are not endowed with the resources to get into the normal, to get into the special schools, so that they get that specialized support. So most of them get to the normal school system, but not knowing that these will take a toll on them in terms of their growth and development. What is your recommendation in terms of training and in terms of support mechanism that can be put in place to support these learners in terms of their in terms of enabling their growth from a psychosocial perspective and socio-emotional perspective, so that we wrap it up in 3 minutes, 1 minute each. Yeah.
That was a long question. How do we take care of their social, emotional well-being? I think one of the things that we should do as teachers, and we've had it very clearly, is first look at this child. This is a child first. So whatever needs of any child whatsoever must be also met for this child who has other needs. So we look at this as being a child first. Here we've only heard about love and acceptance. We don't need a lot of things. Our children, once I ran a school for children with special needs also, and what our clarion call is unconditional love. You love these children unconditionally. The minute you love them unconditionally, they receive you. They are opened. So in order to take care of their psychosocial and emotional well-being, the bottom line is love. Once there's love, there is trust, there's security, there's everything that a growing child will need. So they're first children, then we take care of their other needs. Thank you.
I will also add 5 components that will need, actually the community. It's and has nothing only to do with the child, because the child is the one who's actually undergoing this feeling or this sense of not getting accepted. They believe that is what it is. I believe that is what you felt at that moment. But the school must be in support. The administration must be in support of this child. That is the first one. The administration is aware that this child went through something like this. They should be able to support. We have the teacher attitude. You know, this child has gone through it. You know, in my school, I have to visit every child in their home. And if there's anything that has changed, it is that. I wish teachers out there had that opportunity. And you know, in the village where I come, I live in a village now. I decided to go back home in my village. I live there. I'm happy. It's closer to Nairobi. But I got engaged with a school. It's not Gatimo Primary School. It's a government school. And I work with teachers. I try and mentor them and teach them what I know and my experiences. And of the things I told them is that make a point every Saturday to bring them together in your home. You might not go to theirs, but invite them in yours. Have a cup of tea. Discuss things that are off school. Let them see you in your most vulnerable state. That is the time children will realize that you're also human. The same way I want to see this child in their human state, because the children are also very vulnerable in whatever that they've gone through. We have parental support, and let me tell you, that is where we get a lot of issues, where we lack parental support. And parental support means first informing the school that this is what my child has gone through. If I'm able to get this information in good time, I'm able to support the parent as well. So I cannot do it alone. I need your parent to be there and involved. I need to collaborate with the three pillars. So we have you, I have the school, and I have the parent. The three must collaborate. But you are the one you are the receiver of everything. You are the sponge that saps in every impulse that moves around you. So if I do not, and the parent and the school does not support you in equal measure, you'll feel it. You'll feel like you've been denied something. That one is important. And then finally, the classroom practices. Every school must have a classroom practice where you have your clear guideline that this is Esther, this is what we are struggling. She's struggling with this. Not really telling the students, but it is you. And this is how I'm going to step in between Esther and the situation. Meaning my work is to protect and also expose. Because this child must know how to meet the world. But I need to guide him or her. That's my parting shot.
Thank you so much for that question. And I'm glad you asked it, because this is something that I've experienced with individuals who have acquired disabilities. So when I say acquired, is you are not born with it. So you get it accident or whatever, and it's quite challenging, because first you have to work through acceptance. Okay? And first, I will just, before I give my points, I'm so sorry for what you went through. Okay? And I hope you've gotten help. Yes. So when you find an individual who is dealing with an acquired disability, first things you need to lead them into acceptance. It's a whole process. They have to accept that the disability they have, and with support know how to deal and live with it. And then to the environment, the people need to understand. You cannot expect people to accept you if they do not understand what you're dealing with. So the second thing is allow the people around you to understand. Talk about what you're going through. Talk about what your emotions are. Even if the first time you talk about it, they might not respond positively, because we are Africans. we shy off from some discussions. Disability is one of them. There's so much stigma that comes with it. So the more you talk about it, the more you embrace it, the more it becomes a comfortable discussion. So, and then also seeking help. We are not very familiar with seeking help as individuals. For ourselves, for the people around us who need that help, counseling really helps. So when you go through that, then you're able to deal with anything, you know. So even if someone comes and calls you, you're so disabled, no. You're like, oh, yeah, I know it, you see? Yeah, so that is how, that is the level that we should get to. So for me, it is the acceptance phase, and then just creating awareness for people to understand what you're dealing with. Then people will accept you better that way. Thank you.
Thank you. When the adults that are in the system get to do what is right, I always believe that kids and learners will succeed. And that is where one of my panelists was referencing to. There are many actors that are involved. And all the actors need to collaborate and work together. First, we need to appreciate that we are individual human beings. And when you're talking about disability, when you're talking about shortcomings, we are talking about a person. So how do we handle the individual needs of a person and make sure that we are conversing from a point of a human being? The Reuben that was joining the team here about 30 minutes ago is not the Reuben that is speaking now. Because our human anatomy dictates that we are developing, we are growing every hour, every second. And that is what calls for the need for continuity in terms of the support structure that are in place. One of the panelists here has talked about how we handle those children with special needs in a very careful way who are in a classroom environment. Are parents aware of how they can handle those children at home? Are their friends in the community aware of how they can handle them? So we need to make sure that we continue to create more awareness on the need for continuity in the support system for each and every other individual, so that we don't say that at the classroom environment, that is where we support the child, but when they go home, we like stop and we oppose their life until tomorrow in the morning when they go back to a classroom environment that will help bring the best out of them. Number two, we need to appreciate that every player has a role to play, because the classroom environment itself and its practices should also feed into the peer interactions that those children are experiencing while they are in class. Number two, the conversations that will happen with their parents should also contribute to the nature of the conversations that happened while in school as well. You need to help them to continue to aspire. You need to help them to continue to dream as well. A shortcoming is a shortcoming at that point in time, but in future, it might be your strength. So how to bring out the best of every learner to make sure that they are admiring to move from their current being to the best that they can be in the future. It calls for all of us to work together as one unit so that there is continuity in these conversations, there is continuity in support framework, there is continuity in how we are helping the society to be a better society.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Round of applause to my panel. You've done it well, you've done it great. As we wrap it up, Madam Eva has an announcement to give about the Ubuntu.
Okay. Thank you very much. Today we've just heard a lot about Africa. Africa, Africa, Africans, Kenyans, Africa. On the 16th, 17th, and 18th of August, we'll be holding an Ubuntu. Ubuntu means I am because you are. It's an Ubuntu, it's the second Ubuntu conference on special needs and inclusive education. So we wish that we can have the other partners with us as we discuss further into how we can use the African philosophy of Ubuntu to create an inclusive, you see where I'm going? To create an inclusive world, an inclusive community, an inclusive school. And we don't need so much, we just need to take that African philosophy of Ubuntu. I am who I am because you are. And together we can be able to actually come up with an inclusive, workable, successful, inclusive model for our African children and our African schools. So welcome for that conference. We will share more details.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let's clap for them. Let's appreciate them. So for the panelists, I'll request you just come down for a group photo. Daniel will join them. You can join them. Prof, you can join the photo.